Welcome back, focused learners, to another explainer. Today, we're unpacking a truly massive event. An event with just immense historical weight: the 2018 FIFA World Cup. For one entire month, the attention of the literal globe turned to Russia. And on the pitch, well, the beautiful game delivered unbelievable drama, heartbreaking upsets, and a tournament that fundamentally changed how the sport is played. But as we'll see, the story off the pitch was just as complex and honestly far darker than the one on it. Okay, let's dive right into this. We're going to start with a staggering figure: $14.2 billion. At the time the tournament kicked off in June 2018, this was the estimated cost. That made it the absolute most expensive World Cup ever held in history up to that point. It was a massive financial undertaking by the host nation, with the clear goal of presenting a modernized Russia to the rest of the world. So to grasp how this mega event unfolded, here's our roadmap. We'll be covering a controversial host, the $14 billion pitch, the teams in new tech, group stage shocks, crowning the champions, and we'll wrap up with a global legacy.
Section 1. A controversial host and the 2010 bidding process.
To really understand 2018, we actually have to rewind all the way back to December 2010. On December 2nd, the 22-member FIFA Executive Committee met in Zurich to pick the host. And Russia won the right to host the tournament in the second round of voting. They ended up defeating some very heavy European competitors. There was an incredibly strong joint bid from Portugal and Spain, another joint bid from Belgium and the Netherlands, and a solo bid from England, which surprisingly got eliminated in the very first round of voting. Now, the years between that 2010 vote and the 2018 kickoff were clouded by some pretty severe allegations. Off the pitch, there was a confirmed FBI probe looking into corruption regarding the bidding process itself. On top of that, organizations like Human Rights Watch were reporting cases of labor abuse and dangerous conditions for the migrant workers who were actually building the venues. Then you had the McLaren report, which listed dozens of Russian footballers alleged to be part of a state steroid program, though FIFA later came out and stated they found insufficient evidence of anti-doping violations. And finally, the political climate was intensely strained. Following the poisoning of Sergei Skripal, the UK government launched a diplomatic boycott, completely refusing to send ministers or royal family members to the games. Section 2. The $14 billion pitch, building the spectacle. So, despite these heavy geopolitical realities, the games were happening. Let's look at the immense logistical effort required to prepare the largest country on Earth: 12. That's the number of stadiums used to host the 64 matches of the tournament. These 12 massive arenas were spread out across 11 different host cities, mainly to help reduce travel times. And what's truly awe-inspiring here is the sheer scale of the construction. Out of those 12 stadiums, 9 were brand new, ground-up builds. The other 3, including the massive Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow, were heavily renovated. But stadiums are just concrete and steel. A World Cup requires immense human capital. Over 35,000 volunteers were engaged and trained across 15 volunteer centers to help run the whole shebang with incredible energy. And to move millions of people across a massive country, Russia rolled out the Fan ID system. This was a special photo ID pass that allowed international fans visa-free entry into the country, but it also granted them completely free public transportation, including extra train services that linked the host cities together. Section 3. Teams, Tech, and VAR. The 2018 roster. With the stage set, let's step right onto the pitch. The 2018 roster of 32 teams had some unbelievable storylines before a ball was even kicked. On one hand, we had absolute joy for the debutantes. Panama qualified for their first ever tournament, alongside Iceland, who actually made history by becoming the smallest country by population to ever reach the World Cup finals. But on the flip side, there were some glaring absentees. 4-time champions Italy failed to qualify for the first time since 1958, and heavyweights like the Netherlands, the United States, and reigning Copa America champions Chile, they all completely missed the cut. But perhaps the biggest debutante at this World Cup wasn't a team at all. It was technology. 2018 marked the historic introduction of VAR, or the Video Assistant Referee. Operated from a single centralized headquarters in Moscow, VAR officials received live video feeds and were in direct radio contact with the on-field referees to review game-changing decisions. This was literally the first time this tech was ever approved and utilized for a FIFA World Cup. And its historic impact was immediate and honestly massive. This new system fundamentally changed how the sport is refereed. Imagine playing a hyper-competitive match, knowing every single tiny tug of a jersey in the box is being watched from multiple angles in high definition 500 miles away in Moscow. This hypervisibility led to a historic spike. A record number of penalty kicks were awarded in this tournament, a phenomenon that experts directly attribute to the implementation of the new VAR system. Section 4. Group stage shocks, early exits, and fair play. With the new tech in play, the matches began, and the dramatic tension unfolded right out of the gate. The biggest shockwave of the entire tournament. The collapse of an absolute titan. Germany, the defending 2014 champions, finished at the absolute bottom of Group F and were eliminated in the first round. This was the first time they had been knocked out in the opening stage since 1938. This stunning early exit continued this bizarre and dramatic champion's curse for recent defending title holders, right on the heels of the early exits of Italy in 2010 and Spain in 2014. Meanwhile, over in Group H, we saw World Cup history made regarding how teams actually advance. Japan and Senegal finished totally tied on points, tied on goal difference, and tied on goals scored. So how do you break a tie like that? For the first time ever in a World Cup, the fair play criteria was used. Japan advanced to the knockout stages over Senegal, simply because their players had received fewer yellow cards during their matches. Discipline and essentially being just a bit more polite literally kept their tournament alive. Section 5. Crowning the champions, the knockout stages. The intensity really ramped up as we entered the high-stakes single elimination bracket. And as we moved through the knockouts, a very peculiar statistic kept growing, bringing us to this number, 12. There were an astonishing 12 own goals scored during this tournament, meaning players accidentally put the ball into their own nets so frequently it felt like half of them forgot which jersey they were wearing. This wildly doubled the previous World Cup record of 6 own goals, which was set way back in 1998. But eventually, the bracket narrowed down to 2 teams, under the bright lights of Luzhniki Stadium in Moscow on July 15th. It was a heavyweight clash. You had a star-studded France against a remarkably resilient Croatian squad. And the final was a thrilling, high-scoring affair. France ultimately claimed a 4-2 victory, highlighted by some truly spectacular goals from Antoine Griezmann, Paul Pogba, and the electrifying Kylian Mbappé. This victory officially crowned France with their second-ever World Cup title. Beyond the team trophy itself, the tournament cemented the legacies of several standout performers. England's Harry Kane took home the Golden Boot as the top scorer with 6 goals. Despite losing the final, Croatia's absolute maestro, Luka Modric, won the Golden Ball for being the tournament's best overall player. Belgium's Thibaut Courtois secured the Golden Glove for his incredible goalkeeping, and France's Kylian Mbappé cemented his superstar status by taking home the Best Young Player award. Section 6. The Global Legacy. Return on Investment. With the trophy lifted, it's time to zoom back out to our macro level. What was the return on that massive financial and logistical investment? Well, this number tells you everything you need to know about the reach of the beautiful game. 3.57 billion unique viewers tuned in to watch the World Cup. Think about that for a second. That is more than half of the entire global population over the age of 4. The scale of the global television footprint for this single sporting event is practically unmatched by anything else in human history. And on the ground in Russia, despite all those intense pre-tournament fears regarding security, hooliganism, and boycotts, the event was a massive logistical triumph. An incredible 98% of stadium seats were sold out, visiting fans enjoyed free travel and a genuinely safe, welcoming atmosphere. By the close of the event, it was widely deemed a resounding public relations success for the host nation, with FIFA's president at the time even proclaiming it to be the best World Cup ever. Which brings us to our final thought. We've looked at this staggering $14.2 billion cost, the severe off-pitch investigations, and those looming political shadows. But we've also seen the sheer on-pitch brilliance, the technological leaps with VAR, and the shared joy of 3.5 billion people watching together. So I'll leave you with this to consider. When we weigh the incredible spectacle against the heavy realities of how it was brought to life, is the beautiful game worth the billions spent and the controversies endured? Let that sink in, keep learning, and I'll see you in the next explainer.